My name's Luke and I'm a filmmaker based in Perth and I'm a Sandgroper. My origin story, I grew up in the Kimberley. So I was born in Derby and raised in a small Aboriginal community called One Arm Point. Ardyaloon is the Bardi name for it. My mum is from there, and when I was 11 years old, we migrated to Perth. And this was in the late 90s. And so the world was a very different place. And I went to Kingsway Christian College, and that was an eye-opener for me. Coming from where I was, I'd never seen so many white kids before. And I was in a class with 30 of them. And so this was pretty daunting for me. It's just so much a different world. And that took a bit of getting used to. And I mean, I could fit in just based on my appearance. I kind of fit in with all the white kids, but I came from a different world. And that was a big adjustment for me. I'd gone from being a barefoot kid, wearing no shoes to school, to then having to go to a private school, and my socks had to be grey, you know, so like a big change. We made the move because high school was closing down at One Arm Point, and my oldest brother was moving into high school, and so Mum and Dad wanted some more opportunities for us in terms of education and sports and other activities that could lead to career progressions for us. And so we made that big move, and we came down like the hillbillies into the big smoke. I just had a dream of being a professional sportsman, and I loved basketball. That was my favourite sport, and so I wanted to take that as far as I could, and I really wanted to pursue a professional career in basketball. And I made the state team in WA, and we competed nationally. We won the gold medal in the under-16 state championships, and it was looking like a pretty good trajectory. And then I managed to go over to the US, and I actually finished year 12 over there. And I moved to a college in Florida, and so I did some college basketball there, and I was on scholarship the whole time. So I ended up spending 3 years in the States, really pushing with basketball, and it became quite a grind for me too. Like, we were putting in so much work every day, and it was very taxing on the body. And also I'm in a new country and I've got no family around, and coming from the small community that I came from, this was, again, this was like a big challenge. There were a lot of changes. It's a location change from One Arm Point to Perth, but it's also a change in time. I mean, I'm talking about times that are pre-internet, you know, and pre-smartphone. When I first went to America, and this makes me sound really old, there were no smartphones. It was right before the iPhone was invented. And so how I communicated with family when I was in North Carolina for the first year was I would purchase a calling card, put $20 of credit on it. I would dial like 25 different numbers to get through, and then I'd call Mum and Dad, who were in Balladura at the time. And I could do it at certain times, because between North Carolina and Perth was a 12-hour time difference. So it's a complete other side of the world, right? So if you had a globe and you stuck a skewer through it in Perth, you'd come out in North Carolina, New York area. One thing I learned from all my travels was that sort of when in Rome, you do as the Romans do, and you just adjust to whatever the locals are doing and how they do it. And I went from Perth to the south, on the Bible Belt of North Carolina, and that was a big cultural shift. Just walking in, you feel like you're walking into a movie, just with all the accents, and then you would start talking to people and you'd recognise how foreign your voice sounded compared to everyone else. And so I thought my career would go in that direction, and it did for a while. And I got to a stage where I was doing some training with the Perth Wildcats here, but then I blew out my knee when I was 22, 23, and that took a while to get back from. I did manage to make a recovery, but it took a full 18 months. And then shortly after that, I got chronic fatigue. And so I had to pretty much stop any kind of physical activity for a while. And it made it very difficult. And so I couldn't really become the basketball player I wanted to be because I couldn't push my body that hard. It was very difficult for me to give up basketball. I mean, at this point, I'd put in 10 plus years really working hard at it, and I was not seeing a lot of results by this point too. I wasn't as far along as I had hoped. And so it just felt difficult to do. And when you're competing at a professional level or aspiring to be at a professional level, it kind of dominates your life a bit, and so it's very taxing. Moving from basketball to being a musician, I mean, I love music, everybody loves music, but there was something about playing music and the guitar and writing songs that was very therapeutic, and I found it just came at a great time for me. It was almost like a saving grace that I had something I could escape to, and I felt like this was a good pathway for me. I'm sort of glad that I changed ship and I got on the music path, and almost wish that I did it sooner. But I know that for me, I mean, I was such a shy kid, and so getting up and performing in front of people and singing was just such a daunting thing. I couldn't have seen myself doing that as a teenager. So that transition, it was natural. It was hard saying goodbye to sports, but it opened up new opportunities. I'm now in the film industry, so I run a production company with my brother Dan. Working with my brother has its challenges. It's great because we know each other so well, so I know what he's thinking, he knows what I'm thinking. But sometimes we don't communicate well enough as well. I couldn't, I don't know if I should say that. I have 4 brothers, I couldn't work with the other 2. It has its challenges working with family, but it has its benefits. I just know that I can trust my brother. In terms of having a business partner, that's a huge thing. So we've got a lot of faith in the way that we do business, and our ethics and our values are very much aligned, so it works. But with the other 2, no joke. A piece of advice I could give to my younger self, honestly, there's so many things. I think I would tell myself to try to learn from others a little more and to try to be more humble. I don't think I was cocky or arrogant, but I think I didn't see the value in the knowledge of other people. And I think I now realise that everybody knows something that you don't. So stay humble and listen. And also the value of communication with other people. And like I've said before, I was such a shy kid, and I didn't necessarily see the value in talking to others and the fact that it could open so many doors for yourself. Another piece of advice I could give is that it's not all about hard work. It's not just about grinding and putting in the time and giving maximum effort. It's actually about being smart and finding some more high leverage activities where you get more return on your investment, so to speak. So invest in things that are going to deliver the best outcomes. I know that sounds very fluffy and strategic. I've been learning that in business, that where I'm spending my time management is super important, and how I'm spending the day. And working in times to be a human being, so taking breaks, weekend getaways, go fishing, relax. It's not all about working 12 hours a day. And I think if you do those things, you maximise your output as a human, because that's what we're supposed to be doing as humans.